Okay, so this whole next unit is over chemical reactions. So the first thing we need to look at is the types of reactions that we have, and then how do we know that there's a chemical reaction taking place at all. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the types. There are 5 types of reactions. First one is a basic synthesis reaction. So synthesis, if you synthesize something, you're putting something together. So you come up with two reactants equal one product. Okay, so you are coming up with only one end goal, one end result. All right. The second type, decomposition. The opposite of synthesis. You're taking something apart. You're taking one thing and decomposing it. You're separating it. So you have AB, you have compound AB, and it's going to break up into its elements A plus B. Okay? So if you were to look at a relationship analysis, you have in synthesis, you have a guy and he meets a girl traditionally, and they become a couple. Okay, and then, I don't know, in most high schools, 3 weeks later, that couple breaks up and becomes the guy and the girl again. Okay, so the third type, single replacement. Okay, we take our analogies again. We've got our couple, AB, plus a third party C. Okay, and then basically AB breaks up and becomes AC plus B. So we have one couple and one third person, and then they basically switch places. Okay, now it is important to understand that when you're dealing with actual chemicals and actual elements, if this were a metal and this is a non-metal, if this is a metal, it's going to replace the metal. So it would be BC instead of AC. Okay, so the metals are going to switch places. So in our scenario, this is actually non-metal. So our non-metals have switched places. Okay, because now we have metal and non-metal and our non-metal again. Okay, fourth type, double replacement, called double displacement sometimes. Okay, so in double replacement, you've got two compounds or two couples, and they're basically just going to switch partners. So you have a metal and a non-metal, and a metal and a non-metal, and they're basically going to the non-metals are going to switch places. So you have AD, okay, plus CB. Now, you say, why isn't it just BC? Well, if you think back to how ionic compounds are put together, you have the metal first and the non-metal second. So you have to have the metal first again, which was right here, and the non-metal second. Okay? So you still have to follow the same rules as we were earlier. It's just, now we've only got letters here as placeholders. So the last type is combustion. Okay, so anytime something burns, you're going to get a combustion. This one's a little bit different. You have CXHY, which is just any old hydrocarbon. So it's only carbon and only hydrogen. Those X and Y could be any number. It could be C2H4, C2H6, whatever works. And combustion is always in the presence of oxygen gas. Okay, and it always produces carbon dioxide and water every single time. So you should be able to get this entire reaction just by seeing that. Okay, so if I gave you C2H4, you should be able to fill in the rest of it because it's always in the presence of oxygen and it always creates these two products. Okay, there's your types of reactions. Those are the only 5 types that we have. We're going to focus, typically when we get into predicting products, we're going to focus on synthesis, single replacement, double replacement, and then you'll have some combustion as there as well. A lot of times it's difficult to predict, decomposition problems. But for now, those are your 5 types. Now we need to talk about, evidence. Evidence of a chemical reaction. So how do you know when there's a chemical reaction taking place? I think we've talked about this before. Well, one is a temperature change. So when you have those heating pads, those hot hands that you shake up and they get warm, that's a chemical reaction taking place. When you get those ice packs that you break and shake up and it gets cold, that's a temperature change. Okay, so your example here is hot hands, hand warmers. Example. There's a lot of other examples out there. Second is a permanent color change. Okay, so in the example of the metal, you have silver tarnishing. Or iron rusting. Okay, so it turns a different color permanently. You can't get that back. Third piece of evidence, you have a gas produced. A gas is produced, so in the example of vinegar and baking soda. A gas that it bubbles up, and most people use it for volcanoes. Next one, you have a light that's produced. What's it called? A glow stick. You break it and shake it up, and it starts to glow. Those are the 2 chemicals coming together and producing light. And then the last one, a precipitate is formed. Okay, so a precipitate is a solid that comes out of 2 liquids. So solid product, 2 liquid reactants. Okay, so I take one liquid, I mix another liquid into it, and out falls, a solid. So I showed that to you when we started this, when we did our demos, but that was the yellow stuff that came out of the 2 liquids when I mixed them up. Okay, so that is your types of reactions and your evidence of chemical reactions.